Hello, it's me.
Hey guys, this is Aditya, and I welcome you all again to the funny podcast, which is bizarre and, however, very, very, very real. I mean, these are all life incidents. So, just to remind you that this particular podcast is being created with the support of India Film Project Podcast Lab and Spotify, Anchor by Spotify. So, yes, once again, today I'm going to talk about something which is a little more serious because it actually talks about how we've evolved over time. Because I, for once, have been a person who has seen the technology developing in a very drastic way. I mean, for quite a few decades, our technology was stagnant or was progressing in a very slow manner. But over the last couple 2 decades, like 2000 to 2020, this particular time period has been very, very progressive, and we've actually mastered a lot of things, and we are mastering a lot of things with this. But again, it's when I say technology, it just does not mean your cell phones that you're using to listen to Spotify or any other podcasting platform that you have. I'm actually talking about uh, something which is very much important to me as a moral obligance. So it has been said that gaining knowledge is very important in life. I mean, I'll always say that, वरना obviously तुम लोग सोचोगे कि मैं अनपढ़ हूँ, but yes, knowledge is very important. I mean, everyone has told me this from a very long time. I mean, ever since I was growing up till today, I believe that knowledge is very important. Because अगर तुम्हारे पास नॉलेज नहीं है और तुम बकवास कर रहे हो तो तुम चूतिए हो. बट अगर तुम्हारे पास नॉलेज है और फिर तुम बकवास कर रहे हो तो फिर तुम अलग हो. I mean, the chutia word goes away, but yeah, you have some information that you can share. Some you can exaggerate, but yeah, you have some basic understanding of it. So that's acceptable. But more importantly, when I talk about knowledge, it's, for me personally, is the second most important thing, because it's actually having a perspective. Is that what That's what I think or find is the most important. And that's why in today's time we don't have any. So I mean, I'm just being honest here, and you should agree. I mean, if you do. So that's why today I am going to talk about what has been considered as the strongest source of both knowledge and perspective. And when I say this, that has been considered, uh, the consideration starts off way back in the 17th century, and even in today's time to a certain extent. For perspective and knowledge both, this is a very strong source. I'm obviously talking about newspapers. Now, for all those Gen Z and millennials who are, way too young to understand what exactly is a newspaper, it's that thing that you use to line your shelves and cupboards over which you put your stuff. Yeah. The thing that your mother asks you to bring during Diwali cleaning. So, newspapers were not actually meant for that thing, if you're not clear with it. They have some other purpose. So, today we don't actually emphasize on newspapers because social media is there and WhatsApp University is there for giving us the news that we want to hear. So, that won't make a lot of sense for a lot of people, but for those who have grown up with me during that era, we've seen how important it is. We know how important newspaper is, because it's very clearly given that a person's intelligence and also their importance is directly proportional to the number of newspapers they bring at home, they have subscribed to. This is completely true. I'm not even kidding about this, because मेरे घर पे ही भर भर के पेपर आते हैं, and अभी भी, like even in today's time, आते हैं. It's like really strange because both my parents have smartphones, They can obviously go to their website, newspaper websites, and read about the articles that any particular newspaper is publishing. But they still prefer the old school method. They still go for actually getting on with some physical newspapers. They like paying for their news. So it's something that I have been thinking a lot of uh, times these days, because when I see newspapers anywhere, I usually, like, even in my house right now, we don't read newspapers. We uh, once in a while we get them to during some cleanup or something. But my parents, they actually read newspapers, and uh, this is something that I think most of my relatives and my parents have, that they have subscribed to not one, not two, but at least four newspapers. There are four newspapers, and generally there's only one reader who reads all four of them. Every day, four newspapers come by. My father picks it up and he starts reading it one by one. I don't even check my WhatsApp texts, and he reads these 18-page newspapers in like four different newspapers to understand what is happening in the country, or what the paper wants us to read. Uh, and this is something which is very common. I mean, when I say all my relatives, they also have the same thing. They gather a lot of newspaper, and I have an uncle who works in a bank, so he has a transferable job. So he has stayed in Jaipur, Mumbai, Indore, like depending on wherever he has gone. Somehow he used to order two English newspapers, one Hindi newspaper, and he manages to get an Odia newspaper subscribed even if they are not in Odisha. And it's actually very fascinating that people are still going on with it. When I look at newspapers, let's say for example a very prominent newspaper of the country, I won't take names, they have the price or the rates of those newspapers, they vary from day to day depending on what kind of supplement are they publishing and giving along with it. So some days it's 3.5 rupees, some days it's 5 rupees, on Sunday probably it was 10 rupees. And you actually pay that much money every day on four different subscriptions to make sure that yes, we have some understanding of what is happening in the country. That is what makes me feel like it's very fascinating, because uh, I usually just open this app called Google Go, and I click on the search bar, and the first thing that it does is it shows me what all keywords are right now trending on Google, and I click on those and I get my information, because that is what news is. So my uncles, my parents, they've all done this. They've all had multiple newspapers in different languages. Even though the language might be different, the news usually stays the same, but they read it. They diligently read it, and that is what I find funny, because once you've got the hold of one particular news article, why do you want to read it in another newspaper? And nowadays they are also struggling a little bit, because like when I say that they stay in different states apart from Odisha, and they're trying to procure a particular newspaper, it's not exactly that easily available these days, because newspapers are actually losing their charm. They have been losing their charm for a very long time, but people who are avid readers or diligently following newspapers since they were a child, they want that newspaper to be here. They want it at their doorstep, and actually gain some information from a physical format and not their cell phones. So this is one such instance where I have seen that newspapers are losing their charm. Whenever I have seen people who come and they ask, what newspaper are you subscribed to? This has happened a lot of times. So they come, they ask, what newspaper are you currently subscribed to? We tell them that these are the newspapers we are subscribed to, and they will tell you that okay, along if you want, you can also subscribe to this particular newspaper. They'll give us a newspaper, and they'll say that if you subscribe to this one, with a minimum subscription of let's say 6 months, we'll give you a discount, plus as an incentive they will be giving you gifts. So to make it a point that you are actually selling newspapers, you are giving away things which are not news related at all. Many a times I've seen people at my doorstep who say that, just subscribe to this newspaper for 6 months, and we'll at the moment you pay for the subscription, we'll give you a bucket, some chair, a dinner set probably, we'll have a sweepstakes, and all this shit comes up. And I mean, it bothers me because for me it feels like you are actually selling information which is really important, and you're belittling it with something like a plastic chair or a bucket. And what is more devastating is that because newspapers are losing its charm, it becomes a desperate attempt by parents to actually subscribe to that newspaper, get that chair, and then throw that newspaper onto their kids' face saying that we've subscribed these newspapers, why don't you read it? I mean, you can just simply give them the newspaper and ask them to read it, and you don't have to sugarcoat it by hiding your need of a bucket, or sometimes not need of a bucket, but since you've heard the word free, it starts tingling your bones. So you do that. And I mean, a lot of times, I mean, even today, I feel like yes, newspapers are important because it provides you information. That information turns out to be knowledge about something. And moreover, when you subscribe to multiple newspapers and you read about one particular instance in two different aspects, two different writers putting up their opinions in that, I think that helps you in gaining a perspective. You need to know both the sides. Even if only one side is true, try to put yourself into the shoe of someone who's on the other side and try and visualize that. So that is what enhances the perspective in general. So I mean, usually, since I don't have the time to read a newspaper, what I did a couple of years back is that I just got myself the Manorama yearbook. For those who don't know, Manorama is a publishing house that publishes a yearbook in which events that have transpired over the last 1 year, everything is mentioned in a very concise manner, and it covers both India as well as the global context. So with Manorama yearbook, what I did was, it gave me an opportunity to actually understand the current affairs without actually dwelling into it 18 pages every day. Yes, it gives me knowledge, not perspective. That's fine. And now that I'm earning a little bit, I've actually subscribed to online newspapers. So I have the New York Times subscription, I have the print subscription, and these newspapers, they all the major articles of the newspapers, they are daily mailed to me. I get 2 to 3 mails depending on what type of news articles are inside that mail. I get these mails and I try to skim through it. And that is the maximum, that is the farthest I've gone in my parents' futile attempt to make me a reader of from the world of news. I think sometimes you might also feel the same. I'm definitely sure, I mean, regardless of what your age is, I'm definitely sure that your parents have also tried to shove some newspapers into your face and say that, you should read these are important, this creates a habit of reading, so and so forth. So if this relates to you, please let me know. Once again, my Instagram handle will be on the description of the podcast, regardless of what platform you're listening to. I think with Anchor, you can send me comments. With Spotify, I'm not that sure, but yes, I think there might be a chance. And You can connect with me. You can just text me, DM me on Instagram, and I'm really looking forward to actually hearing from you if you guys relate to the stuff that I'm sharing. So that'll be all from me today. I'll be back again next week. Till then, take care, be safe. Thank you, and bye bye.